I really love languages. To learn them, to read them, to understand what other people are saying. Just to be able to communicate with different people and different cultures. It's so nice. So that's why I came up with the idea to list 10 tips to try out reading in different languages if you're interested in that. And also with every tip I will give you an example of a Dutch book you can try to read when you're learning Dutch. Hi, my name is Femke. Welcome to my channel Punky. And I talk a lot about books. I love recommending them. But I also love languages, like I said. So that's what I am going to do today. I am learning French. I am kind of fluent in English. My first language is Dutch, and I wanted to say I also can read some German. I cannot speak it, but it's okay when I read it. So, from someone that is learning a lot of languages, I wanted to give you some tips. So let's dive in. Tip 1. Level up. If you are a learner by yourself and you don't know what level you're in, just start out with kids' books. That's perfect when you don't know your own level and you can try out different age groups. So try out with the younger kids, 4 to 6 maybe, and then 6 to 8 or 8 to 12, and then like that you can find your own level. That's so much fun to do because kids' books, to be honest, they are a lot of fun to read. So please try that out. A good tip if you're searching Dutch books to try out, I will give you the tip Annie M.G. Smith. She has a lot of books and they are all for kids, and when the kids are too young, the parents are reading it for them. And when they get older, they can try and read it themselves or watch the illustrations. It's just so much fun. And this book you can maybe all know because Minus is about a girl that talks with cats or something. It's so long ago I've read this. Whoa. But this is translated in a lot of languages, so maybe you also have this in your country. Tip 2. Start out with comics or graphic novels. If you don't know if you can find your joy in reading kids' books, you can also try to find something that you like in another language when you try out illustrated books, like comics. They are so much fun to read, and I have here those two, like Diaries, or this one I forgot the name in English, but it's so much fun to read them. I've read them as a kid and you fly through them, and even if you're Dutch or other language, your second language, third language, fourth language, I don't care. If it's not that great, the illustrations will help you get through the story a little bit better, so you can try that out. Tip 3. You can read something you know the story of. Maybe by a movie, maybe because you've read the book in your native language. It's so much fun, and I forgot to pick up my example, but I tried this with different books. Also for my study, to be fair, I was not supposed to watch the movies or read the books in my native language, but I did, and it helped me so much. So I want to give you as a tip Wonder. This is not a book by a Dutch author, but it has so many translations. It's not too thick. And it's also so much fun to read. It has a beautiful example in life I love this book, and you fly through it, so it's not that difficult to understand. If it's too much, you can also try other kind of contemporary books, but I will say this is a good book to try out. And you can find it in your native language, but also translated. And it has a movie, so what do you want more? Tip 4. Translate words you don't know. I do this not often, but it works. And it can be sounding a little bit cliché, but there are a lot of fun ways to do it. Try out and write them down in the book itself, or make a vocabulary list. It's also possible to pick up that book you have multiple translations of and just I don't know what it's supposed to say. So I'm going to find that part I am in my second language. I will read it and I'm like, oh, okay, nice. I know where it is about again, and I will pick up the other book again. I did it with this book. I had to read it for my study, Le Petit Fils de Monsieur Lin. And I had this copy next to it, and it worked so well. I really love to have this as a good example, because it is a literature that can be a little bit tricky with difficult words, but it is also super short, so I don't care, and it is a really good book. The best book I have ever had to read for school, so pick it up. Tip 5. If you finally found your level of books you are comfortable with when reading, it's not too difficult, it has a little bit of challenging vocabulary, but it is not too much, you can try out and search on Google writers or books that are similar. Type in books for fans of or books similar to. And a really good example I have for this in Dutch is the writer Chinook Thijssen. She writes young adult thrillers but also children's books, and it has a very accessible writing style. But she has also a lot of conculega's, as we say in Dutch, colleagues, but also concurrents who are writing thrillers for young adults. And I have one in my shelves, that's Danielle Bakhuis, but you can also try out Maren Stoffels. But if you're not into thrillers, you can try and find more books by the publisher. She publishes her books by Clavis, and Clavis has a lot of young adult books that are accessible for new readers, so a good book to say it's Combi-tickets, Rudy Verbund, because this is such a fun book and not thrilling. It's more like the romance side, but it is not about love. It's about festivals, so it's so much fun. So yeah, I would say try out and search by publisher or by similar books, similar writers, so you can try out and find more in that same street. Tip 6. Read books that are written as diaries. They are so easy to read. The vocabulary wouldn't be too hard because it's written like you're talking to someone. The person that's writing the letters, it's just writing their thoughts. So why would there be difficult vocabulary? And an extra plus is they are all such short pieces of story. And a good example for this is Hendrik Groen books. they are for advanced readers, but it's like, look at this. It's so short. And Hendrik Groen is a good known author here in the Netherlands. Everyone that loves reading has tried at least one book of him. And they are hilarious. So if you like funny books and books you can fly through, just pick them up because it's so much fun. Tip 7. Older books can be tricky. And I will say this because a lot of kids on middle school have to read books for the list. Books that school is choosing for them because they are important books, because they have a good accessible reading style. But no, they are not always like that. When I was in middle school, I had to read, I could choose what I was going to read. But if I wanted to read something school was offering me, those stories were so old or classics and difficult to read. And it was like, if you force people or kids, teens to read books like this, nobody is ever going to pick up a book again. So the only older books you may pick up when you're trying to read another language, please stick with children's books. Jan Terlouw has a very accessible writing style in Dutch, so please check him out. This book is about a secret letter. Oh yeah, I was confused with another story, but this is about a secret letter and spies. But we also have something about the Second World War winter, and we also have a book about Dutch history, the watersnoodramp. So I'm sorry, my English it's gone, but yeah, that is just a good book to explore Dutch history, but also trying out new languages, because children's books that are written in 1900 and something, they are not even that bad and very accessible to read. This book is from 1981 and that's the 12th edition. So the first edition was 1973. So it is old, but you can read it. Tip 8. Big books will not be motivating you. Please don't pick up a big book with over 200 or maybe even over 300 pages for the daring. They will not be motivating you when you're already struggling with the language you're reading. You will be slower when you're reading a second language. That's a fact. So when you're picking up a book from 500 pages in your native language, you will be a little bit longer reading it, but I don't care, it's fun, it's fun and games until you try it in your second language and you think, oh my god, I've been in this book for a year and I'm not even halfway through. It's not motivating you. So if you're searching cool books that could be like big books, but they are not, or maybe writers with different lengths of books, I want to say Saskia Noord. Saskia Noord has a lot of stories that are thin, but also maybe 200 to 300 pages, so you can find out your own length of book you want to read. It is advanced, but I will say when I was in middle school, me and a lot of friends of me enjoyed reading her books. So it's not too difficult. It is an accessible writing style with accessible vocabulary. So you can try it out. Tip 9. read books that are shortened down or leveled down. They have a name, let me check. Ambridged books. Those are books that are shortened down, like a lot of classics or bigger books are shortened down because you don't need to read everything that is happening. So they have shortened books for example, schools, or just for people that don't like big books but just want to enjoy the story. But also a lot of books are leveled down for readers that are learning another language. I have a lot of French books that are sorted by your level, like A1 or C2 or B1. I have a lot of books like that, and they have like vocabulary lists on the bottom of the page or just at the back of the book, and it's super handy. But there are also a lot of books that are just easied out, like for learners or for kids. There are also books like for dyslexic people, for example, so you can try out and do that. And a fun example I have for this is the Diary of Anne Frank. That's because everyone knows the story of Anne Frank by now, I hope. And it has a lot of books in other languages, but also different kind of storytellings. I have a lot of copies right here. Oh no. This is the original old diary, and I can recommend this to you because it's an accessible writing style, because it's a girl of 13 that has written this book. But you can also pick up a newer copy with extra diary pages that are just put in later. You can also try and go to a museum copy. This is not the diary, but you can also suck in the story of Anne Frank by pictures of the museum and her family, and the pictures will help you. But also I have this cute book. It's an illustrated history of Anne Frank. So with just only those 4, I have given you a good tip, I hope. But there are so many more ways you can explore the story of Anne Frank. So try it out. And the last tip, tip 10. If you read a specific genre in your own time, free time in native language, it doesn't mean you have to read that same genre in another language, in your second, third, or fourth, fifth language. It will not be that easy, maybe. For example, I am a fantasy reader, but when I pick up a fantasy in French, I am lost. There are so many words you cannot translate with a dictionary. But also when I read thrillers in my native language, it's like it looks easy, but when I pick up a thriller in French, thrillers do have a vocabulary point I am not comfortable with yet in French. There are so many words I have not learned, and just too much for me to enjoy the story without getting lost in my dictionary. So you don't need to have to read the same genres. I love to read children's books, but also more romance books when I'm reading in French. That's my third language. I can now read everything in English. Sometimes I am getting lost with fantasy, but I am getting lost with fantasy in Dutch too, so that wouldn't say anything. But when you want a fantasy, accessible fantasy in Dutch to try out, please pick up this. It is a little bit older, but I've read this as a kid and it's stuck with me forever. This is a book for 12 years and older, but it is such a good fantasy, and it has illustrations. So that's cool. Look, they have full page illustration. I have not read this copy yet. I have read other copies, but this full page and also half page. Like they have so many beautiful illustrations and a map. That's the epic thing. Like, it's a book for 12 years and older, but I've read it like when I was 10 or 11, so close to the age where you're supposed to read it, but it's so much fun. I will highly recommend reading this book. So those were the 10 tips and even more books that I would recommend you to pick up when you're trying to read in another language and also trying to read Dutch. Please say in the comments if you would like more tips or more comments, or when you have a tip, please drop them, because everyone wants to know. I want to know more tips, what I can try. That would be awesome. So please, please, please drop them in the comments. I would say thanks for watching. I hope you can try out some of these tips and maybe even the books. And I will see you in the next video. Bye bye!